Look at me. Pay attention. I want to make this crystal clear so that nobody can say that I'm trying to do some backdoor verbiage because you're not paying attention. Listen close and make sure your ears are nice and wide. Activists suck. They will always suck. These new age activists, let me be clear, people of this current time. Back in the day, I could believe that a bunch of activists were doing things to actually lead to some good change. These morons now don't even know what they're doing. They're doing things that don't help anybody but their own opposition, because how are you going to paint a bunch of rocks thinking that people are going to care about fossil fuels and oil, thinking this is going to be the way we spread the message, when in reality, it makes a bunch of people say, I hope you go to jail. And I'm going to go support the people you don't like, because it's better to do that than to actually listen to what you have to say. You could go to seminars, you could hold gathering events to try to get the message out there. But instead, you want to scream and shout at a hearing because someone is going to jail for a reason they need to go to jail for. But let's bring it all to something specific. Blocking traffic. We all know, as Americans, traffic sucks. If you live in New Orleans, you know on a Friday around like 2:30 to at least 5 o'clock, you're in a bad mood if you hit I-10 close to the Superdome. But with these activists, in some scenarios, they like to block traffic to try to get people to see them and see what it is that they're talking about. And you have seen examples of people removing these individuals out of the road because they got places to go. They got to go to work. They got to go to school. They got to bring children to and from. They got to make sure if there's a family emergency, they could easily get somewhere like a hospital, for example. And we all agree that that is an annoying thing to deal with, right? Good. However, if you were to, let's say, shoot and kill these people with no amount of harm coming towards you, and you just are having some sort of a bad mood, that could put you in a bind that you were not ready for because you let your anger dictate your next step, which is stupid. Remember back in November, I talked about Santa Claus right before Christmas coming down to check his naughty and nice list. And while he was doing that, he got caught in traffic because a bunch of protesters were on the scene, and he decided to shoot two of them, not in self-defense, not because he was being chased down. Everybody was just standing there, and he just looked around and two-pieced two of them. And the thing that a lot of people didn't get at the time, or at least tried to word salad me with, is, oh, that's an obvious case of fucking around and finding out, Leon. It's fuck around and find out. They did something, so something was done to them. And I was just sitting there thinking, they blocked traffic. What about that screams, it's time to start shooting people? Now, if there was no video, I would assume that maybe a bunch of these activists saw this big burly man with 9 reindeer and decided to charge at him. No, that's not what the video showed at all. So I was just waiting for the day that it came out that this dude faced the obvious consequence for murder. And class, wouldn't you know it, 48 years in prison seems about right, considering you just did that all willy-nilly. Oh, by the way, the gun that he had, he wasn't supposed to have. He was carrying that illegally. Now, again, I will say activists suck. They are annoying. They are a nuisance. I am not killing any of them. Why? Because I don't want to go to jail. Because I don't believe, I may be crazy, I may not have court experience, but I'm willing to bet if I were to take 2 people's lives unjustifiably and then go into the courtroom and explain why I did that, pretty sure I'm getting 48 years, maybe even more, depending on the state and what they deem as justifiable punishment. Why? Because I just took 2 people's lives, and my reason is I'm annoyed that they're causing traffic. That's not a good reason to take people's lives. I would hope individuals understand, and we don't have any random defenses to try to potentially excuse this type of behavior.
I want to say first, yes, Kenneth Darlington is a murderer, and he deserved a prison charge for killing 2 people, okay? But the context is that there were roadblocks going on for months, and many of the points that were blocked were preventing all commerce, ambulances, firefighters, food trucks, fuel trucks from crossing. The Pan American Highway, Panama is a narrow isthmus, and there are like 13 places where there is no other bridge across the river. Like maybe you could drive 30 miles up into the jungle, up a muddy road, and like find some smaller river crossing that you could possibly ford. But for 99% of people, when that road gets blocked, there is no way to go around. And I lived through this, okay? I saw people losing their jobs. I saw the local media reports about, my so-and-so is trapped in the roadblocks. He has heart issues. He doesn't have his insulin medicine. Somebody's kid got bit by a snake and couldn't go through. Like, I lived through this. I speak Spanish. I saw all the local media reports. I made a thread, showing all of the things that, like, the Ministry of Security, the National Medical College, said about, ambulances getting set on fire by the protesters, about, farmers having millions in losses, when the road protests finally stopped, a lot of people were so desperate that they were basically ready to go to war over this, they literally lost their livelihoods. I mean, people were robbing stores, people were shooting each other in the streets. Like, I saw this happen, okay? So, yes, Kenneth Darlington is a murderer, okay? But the state failed in their responsibility to keep the peace. And Kenneth Darlington is just as much a victim as he is a criminal.
While it's very unfortunate that you had to hear these stories as compared to the people who actually lived them, as if that was supposed to help you in any form of the conversation, Kenneth Darlington is not a victim. He is, by the definition and the evidence that locked him up for now 48 years, a murderer. And it is very unfortunate that a bunch of people got into circumstances that they couldn't really deal with in any real concerned fashion because of these protesters. That would not help anyone trying to defend themselves from murder, especially when you got video of the dude point blank range just shooting two people. You can bring up any context you want. You could try to blame the state for not keeping the peace. Guess what? Looting stores is not going to help stop people from protesting, nor is murdering people going to stop them from protesting. As much as anyone thinks that could be the case, it won't be. And I'm glad that it's now kind of slowed down, but that's not helping anybody who, let's see, checks notes, is a murderer. They're booked already. So as much as you want to try to word salad our way into believing that he's a victim, no, he's a murderer, point blank. Fuck. That was the dumbest shit you could say under the sun. I understand. It's annoying. You're annoyed by it. And you have all these examples. None of that excuses murder. And you can talk about a new mayor, an old mayor, and what policies one could bring up potentially. I would think if you are annoyed and you take someone's life, you still face a consequence, no matter if you get a new mayor, a Panamanian mayor, a Hawaiian mayor, or even if Lori Lightfoot goes over there and becomes the fucking mayor. You would think you would still face a consequence for doing that, because being annoyed is not a justifiable excuse at all. Don't let these fools online convince y'all that y'all somehow cool for doing something like this. They are sitting in their houses waiting for somebody to do something smart or cool so that they can slap their hands together like seals. Don't let the guys of social media tell you that you're based, cool, or somehow a hero for this. You would be a murderer, and Big Tyrone likes stupid people. Big Tyrone gonna elongate that schlong dong and come get you, and I know you don't want that. So I think we all collectively agree it is stupid to do such a thing. And no matter what your political affiliation, no matter what complaints you got about this world or the state you live in or the country you live in, killing people unjustifiably is stupid. Okay? Good. Subscribe to the channel. I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.